Hey everybody, so I had previously talked about starting a business, like a pseudo business, for the Blueprints um, game, and so that's still going to happen. That's why we have a lovely Google Slides up right now, because that's going to be kind of our foundation for tonight. Um, Sorry, it's a little bit later than I usually record my videos today. So, um, we're going to make an architecture firm for the blueprints. And so it's going to be under blueprints, if I can spell. Sorry, guys. Um, Architects. And so what's going to happen tonight is basically we're going to set up a story for Blueprints Architects and see what they are really about. What are some of their values? What are some of their um, goals? What are some of their aspirations for their company? How were they founded? What were they really um, kind of founded on? And how do they want to progress throughout their business? And so we'll build that foundation, and then we'll kind of evolve a marketing plan and a branding plan to kind of grow that business throughout our run for through the game. So, uh, again, if you've been kind of following throughout my time playing the game, it's going to be under our playlist. So it's going to be under Blueprints Architects. And so it's just going to be a little bit different. And so this is just going to be kind of the thing that we're going to try. So let's see. Let's do another slide. And you can build your own business. You can do your own mock-ups throughout your if you're into marketing or you're into business, make your own business. It can be pseudo, it can be fake. I probably would recommend that it was fake, just because you can't rely on those. What did they actually do in different scenarios? So, and so you can definitely go and do different things and do different outcomes from that. So, what really, how were the Blueprints Architects founded? What is their story? We're going to start there. And so this might be a bit messy, and then we'll end up kind of making it look nice, making it pretty afterwards. And so just kind of bear with me as far as what things kind of work out or how they look right now. Again, probably in the end, we'll probably put them all in Illustrator or InDesign and make them look immaculate as far as what we would give a client. And so how we would present them to Blueprints Architects if this was a real company and we were pitching them a real brand strategy and a real marketing plan or anything like that. So let's say, so we know through the story that we've done so far, that I've seen through other playthroughs, we know it's a 45 room house. I would say it's a manor. So we can probably say that as an architecture firm, they are probably going to be looking at, are looking for maybe upscale, residential. Let's say they can do remodels and they can do uh, beginner aspects they can do, because this one they're doing, because in the game you're basically structuring it new every day, so this would be remodels, um, but they can start from scratch, so we can kind of pull from both of those things. We'll say that blueprints is also a, again, if I can type. Sorry guys, I am still working on my public speaking kind of aspects. So let's do Blueprints Architects is a family owned and operated business. Due to the fact that we know that Simon inherited the manor, and so that's kind of what we're going for. That's what we're going to go with. They are looking to, I would guess, like, maybe de-aging their audience, if possible. Because with the inheritance to Simon, due to the fact that he's a lot younger, it's a new generation versus it being Herbert. So maybe that's one of their goals. Their goal is to look for a new audience and kind of transfer. I've seen it happen with other aspects or with other businesses, where their current audience might be in the 50s. They originally were in the 30s and they've just grown with the company. So now that they're a little older, they now want to target a younger audience. So they are looking to de-age their audience, and kind of bring a more modern aspect to what they're doing, but they're also wanting to keep it kind of inclusive to who they're looking at, and keeping with the trends of both younger people and with the older generation that they're still working with. So they want to kind of de-age the audience, but they still want to keep those traditions that they've had, or keep the maybe traditional look or feel that they've maybe made for themselves. Okay, so what else? What else do we know about the game that we can put into this architecture firm? When I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, there is a sense of, I don't really want to say whimsy, but there is a certain secrecy and privacy. So I would say like privacy is a big value, safety, because everything is kind of like under lock and key, everything is under security, so they're definitely big on safety. Lots of hidden, quote unquote, kind of rooms. So that's a really big kind of aspect of what they have. Like I mentioned before, traditionalism, just because of the fact that he is a baron. He is passing a peerage title over to his great nephew, grandnephew, and so again, they still want to keep that traditionalism kind of alive. Not a lot of people have maids or like some of those aspects that you see in that house, at least for like the average everyday kind of, I'm from the States, so America or anything like that. You would probably still have it in European countries and probably some Middle Eastern countries, I think. Um, Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But keeping that traditionalism kind of alive. Um, but again, that privacy, safety. Um, let's see. Maybe just openness, but as well, because of the fact that you get so many, like most of the rooms are pretty spacious. They're not like really cramped. Um, they're pretty big estates, so you're still getting like the outdoors. You're still getting a lot of nature. You're getting a lot of the greenhouses. Um, you still get the high tech um, aspects, but you don't. But you still get some of the you get the openness um, that a lot of the places have. Um, I mean, we might come back to a few more of their um, values, what they want in some of their um, groups, but we'll kind of keep it at that. Usually, I would say like kind of work with like 3 to 5 values and really pinpoint and focus on those with a person's story, with a business's story, because it's going to come back with what you're really wanting to focus with your marketing and your brand, because of the fact of how you're communicating and how you're wanting your client to really feel. So really focus on like identifying those values when you hear them talk about how they started, what they want out of their business, and how they really want to develop, or how they start, and again how they started. So, what else in the story? Again, so take this off. See, or start from scratch. And then let's see, what else would be a good part of their story? They would probably also, let's see. I'm not really getting any like organic or like synthetic kind of vibes. Um, they would probably want, again, that high quality. So like maybe instead of upscale, you just say high quality. I know our luxury let's see. Okay, we might kind of come back to the story. I know, again, that's a pretty good start actually, because I would have like things that I would highlight of like what to really look for, um, going forward again, and then incorporating them into the brand. Okay, so we're gonna really focus on goals. So the way I do goals, um, okay, so let's get this off. And then we're going to insert a table. Okay, so I like to really make sure goals are a basically kind of like an inverted pyramid. Sorry, not a period. That wouldn't make any sense. Um, so actually gonna do this. Okay, so our business goals will be here. Our marketing goals will be here. Okay, correction. Nope. Look at me trying to be smart and not succeeding, basically. Okay, so correction. This is how we're gonna do it. Let me explain this first, and then I'll kind of go into it. Start with our business goals. In this case, we're gonna go with sales goals, and then we're gonna go marketing. Um, if you are in marketing, I usually always kind of like work with this as like business and then marketing and then maybe social media marketing or if you have other types of marketing, whether that's print or events or anything like that, maybe more specific, especially if you're like the content strategist or you specifically work for social media platforms or anything like that. uh, Put this mainly more as like your specific aspect of things, but that doesn't necessarily have to mean that it is all always marketing. I'm just realizing you guys probably can't see that. Sorry, guys. Okay. So let's say as a business, they want to okay. And this is where you would probably talk to like your CEO or um, basically your executive suite. Like you would want to know, or your program manager or anything like that who actually has an invested stake into how the program is run or anything like that. And then you would go basically to your CFO for sales. And then again, you would make up your marketing to reflect those goals. Um, so let's say as a business, they want to get more like high level clients. Um, so this could be, you know, names. This could be, since it's residential, I mean, you could still end up doing something more of like, um, I still see this like more as like, okay, you're doing a big maybe hotel or you're doing a remodel for maybe like a bed and breakfast. So you're helping a business pivot. Um, so, but again, if they want to kind of stick into residential, um, that's okay too. That could be one of their goals. They want to stay with more residential. That's where their target is. Um, Rather than going for these big hotels. Um, we'll say less corporate. Um, and then what else? What is another goal that a business would have? I know a big one is always like, okay, we want more sales, but I don't want to just say that um, off the bat and then just say, cool, like that's the part of the business. Um, it's more of the fact that like, okay, let's figure out like how those sales are getting. So that would be like, again, staying with more residential to get those sales versus going to a corporate where they might have more money to spend. Um, so I'm just trying to like hone in on like the why more sales or where more sales. Um, and so maybe we're doing so in that sense of staying with more residential, maybe they're saying and with more, I guess since we're trying to go with a more like younger audience where I know money is a concern. It's a concern for basically everyone. Um, Maybe they just need to go towards remodels um, and get the numbers for remodels up. Or maybe that's something that they want to go away from. And so, again, instead of creating new homes, um, they can, they're totally starting from scratch or something like that. I've kind of seen it both ways, and it really just depends. Um, let's say that they're actually starting more start from scratch. Because I feel like this is more from my limited knowledge of an architect. This is kind of where they can actually, not that like remodeling isn't like something that can happen and they can still bring their creativity to it, but I feel like starting from scratch really gives it like more of a foundation. And so I feel like letting them start from scratch um, would give them more clout as a business. And so again, not that they wouldn't have a lot of clout with restructuring a home or remodeling it, but it would be less on an interior design aspect versus an architectural um, aspect if we started from scratch. Even if the remodel was just using the husk of a building, the husk of a building would, I would still say like kind of be starting from scratch. Um, Again, versus a remodel if you were just doing updates to little things. Um, so and again, if there are more experts in my comments or watching this, please let me know. I have no problem being wrong. So, um, this is basically where I would stick with for business goals. The sales goals would probably be, again, you're having more like high quality or luxury goods slash products in a house. Or in a project, sorry. And that can both do different labor and different cost of the item versus, as well as getting a profit off of those products. I don't know how that really works. But again, it would end up being another point of sale as far as like saying, cool, we want better products for this. And so if it needs a certain expertise to install those things, you would end up having to get experts to do that. You would have to pay them a little bit more. And then getting the architect to kind of work with them. And it kind of snowballs. So, and then probably with staying with the more residential, you'll probably want maybe more acreage, so more like land sales. I do not know how to spell that word. I am sorry, everyone. But just having more, again, expertise of being on sales as far as land versus like a house. And then again, getting permits for all those different things. I would bet you that would cost a lot more in different things. So I'm just going to kind of leave that there. Again, kind of a little bit out of my expertise, but I would think that it might be a little different. And then also you're also working with city experts, county experts, state experts for possible rewiring of water and electricity and sewage and all this other stuff. So I imagine you're going to get more sales for that because you're going to have more instances of kind of working with different corporations or organizations within the government. And so I feel that kind of goes into the more start from scratch. But again, it's just more of, again, it's kind of going back into that. We're getting higher luxury goods. We're getting higher products. And so we might kind of stop with that on the sales front. Again, probably more just because I don't have as much expertise on that front. But if you can kind of tell just as far as, okay, we have to go really kind of more broad from the business side, and now we're going to get like a little bit more specific on how we accomplish those in sales, and then now we're going to get even more kind of particular about how we're going to do that through marketing. So I've always heard through like real estate TikTok basically and Instagram that you really want to talk about the environment. Sorry, computer scared me. About the environment and the neighborhood that you're working with. So whenever you're trying to sell a piece of real estate or home, so I would probably kind of focus on a again, if I can type and if my keyboard works, kind of like a luxury neighborhood, and kind of showing like what those amenities are, whether that is schools. I know that's a really big thing. Um, just kind of like where even like I even feel like even where you go get your groceries, like um, and like where you can go out to eat and things like that. Um, so eateries, um, gyms, that kind of thing. Like what really draws you to this place? Um, and so we'll really want to kind of focus on, okay, all of these things, all of these places, like even if you're kind of working on um, building a place, you're really wanting to sell, like, okay, do they have like good sources of water? Do they have good neighborhoods around like where you've been building? How are they luxury goods? Um, things like that. So it might not even be like the neighborhood itself. It might just be, um, it just might be the goods that you have, and so and that you can get your hands on, and that you commonly use. So let's see about. Um, you'll also probably want to talk about. I know a big thing that has been current um, has really been just collaboration. Um, whether that is working with certain businesses um, and uh, maybe you had a really big client and they can attest to your different client stories um, that you want to tell. You also probably want to say, um, you also might do like a little bit about statistics. Um, and when I say statistics, um, okay, making sure I'm spelling it right. Sorry, guys. Um, I really don't mean just being like, cool, we use like 30% marble from this one place. Um, really kind of just imagine it being like how it impacts the the client. Really showcase how your audience can like work with that. I actually have done social media posts where it's like I've done a game where um, or our company, the company I worked for, um, had produced a game, and so they got different things, uh, like lottery winners or people had pet dinosaurs. It was basically about growing up and things like that, and so it really depended on how we showcased those things. So if you say like, you know, versus if you say 2% of these people are like going to have a pet dinosaur versus, you know, 0.5% are going to win the lottery, they won't care. But if you say like, cool, most of our clients are more likely to have a dinosaur um, than win the lottery, then you might have like a little bit more attention for that statistic, um, and they'll be a little bit more intrigued. I don't necessarily want to call it spin because you're omitting the actual facts, but at the same time, you are telling the truth. You are saying like, okay, this is what happens in the game. This is how it affects our audience um, from who has played it within the last year, however long it was. And so, just kind of tell them, you know, we we're we're known for using high quality marble. We're known for working with local contractors or whatnot. And that's a usable statistic, and that you don't have to necessarily go and have people's eyes glaze over. So again, just making sure that collaborations are a big thing. I know I'm going kind of rambling on about it. Again, uh, I also know visuals are a big thing for architects, for real estate in general. And so again, you're not necessarily telling like the next luxury of the goods in the neighborhood and what you're using, but also really just the transformation um, for a lot of these. And so even if it is from the ground up, you're still showing the transformation of, cool, this was a plot of land or this was an empty building. Um, and so being able to show like those different types of videos, um, the time lapse kind of stuff, um, and like maybe the day in the life of, of different people that you're interacting with, whether it be contractors or with maybe the buyers, or the, like, what are the hopes and dreams of this place, of everything. And so that's a good thing for people to see, like, to really be enticed, to see, okay, this isn't just a, you know, place that's going to build a house. This is going to be an impactful thing for my life, for my company, whatever they end up doing. Hopefully, it's for a residential place, like they want. So it's going to be impactful for possibly children, possibly family get togethers, um, you know, people growing old. So, I mean, this really is like just being, you see it on a lot of like home buying shows where it's like, okay, they'll come back like 6 weeks later or whatnot, and show how the family is like adapting to the house. And so just kind of showing that transformation of like what really like helps them want to be a part of your company and your expertise to make their idea a reality. Um, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Um, we did get some parts of the story, as far as like what they're doing. Um, I'm not making this like super specific on purpose because this is a pseudo business. This does not actually happen, or has not actually happened. And so, again, just saying it's a family owned and operated business, I don't need to say it's necessarily father and son. I don't need to say, how it's really passed down, or like where they are going from right now. We can get in the weeds on that whenever we go back into the audience or whenever we go back into different things. And so just kind of seeing where we're starting is a good starting point. So I'll go ahead and leave it here. And again, I'll make it look a lot nicer rather than just a Google Slides aspect for you guys. That way you guys all kind of have a little bit more of a reference point and it'll look a little nicer. So hopefully you have learned a little bit, and then we can go from there. Hope to see you guys soon and hope you guys are enjoying the run throughs. Bye.